We're live, ladies. We're live. Streetwise Theology presents Agents of the Silver Screen. That's us, yours truly, here down in my basement. On my pool table, welcome, everybody. I have with me my brother, Duvv.
Smells like cat poop down here.
Smells like, well, I was going
It just smells like bums came down here and just dropped a deuce in her cat litter box.
Right. This is a very colorful commentary that we have here today. My brother Duvv, whom his name is Dave, but I call him Duvv. And also to my right here, I have Mr. Joseph Bainey. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I'm a self-proclaimed expert on all things life.
All things life,
Yeah.
including cat poop and bums.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not expect the first topic that we talked about on this podcast to be that wretched cat
I know it's
fecal matter.
It's the first thing that came to my mind. I apologize.
A pox on that cat.
It's 11:32.
Okay. Let's
let everyone know
because
the
it's
time.
supposed to just because we were supposed to start at 10, but Luke did a really good job of figuring out how to get all this working, so we appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Criticism off the bat.
Let's start off.
You did do a really good
with
job.
what we call a segment we call Suicide Watch, is where we purposefully go see a movie that we know is going to be bad. Every now and then, we come across a movie that is surprisingly good, and we enter in with very low expectations, and those sometimes, very rarely, those expectations get exceeded. Now, Duvv, you went and saw Tarzan. Tell us about Tarzan.
Oh,
Tarzan. Well, I was recommended to a friend, and again, this is one of those things where if you're recommended to go see a movie by a friend, I usually don't because they're usually always wrong. This time I did. I was recommended by a friend, and I said, well, the preview looked pretty dumb, and it kind of looked like CGI Tarzan out there, like slinging around like Spider-Man and stuff like that. And I was like, that just looks really weird and dumb. and so the friend of mine told me to go see it, and I went, okay, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I'm going to go see it. It was worse than I thought.
Great.
It was terrible.
Okay.
Terrible movie. Terrible filmmakers. And I really like Christoph Waltz, and he should never have been in that.
Christoph Waltz was in that movie.
He was in the movie, yeah. And
He's
so
in
was
a lot
Margot
of
Robbie.
things. Oh yeah, I did know that.
She was
actually.
actually.
To be fair, she was also in Suicide
I'll tell you
Squad,
what
which we're gonna
though.
talk
I will
about,
say
but-
this about the movie: she didn't like. She wasn't like at all sexual in the movie,
Which is surprising.
which is surprising.
For
And
a
you know what?
movie
It
with
was
a man running around
that's-
in loincloth.
right, and that's what it actually gave the movie appeal. I thought she was very beautiful in that movie.
Okay.
Just dressed normal, like almost like a missionary's wife in a way. You know what I mean? Just really. Not because she's not a plain person, but she was dressed that way, and she was very beautiful. But the rest of it was like, it was like something out of Pocahontas or Bambi or something. Like towards the end, it was like, "Come to me, all you animals, and we will defeat the evil white men together." I mean, it was bad.
I want to be in the room when these studio people or these producers sit around and say, bro, can we make a movie about Tarzan where he like runs with the animals at the end? You know what I'm saying, man? And it's just like so crazy. Like I don't even know why he would run with the animals.
Doesn't he kind of do that in the animated feature? He doesn't do it with all the animals, but don't like all of the gorillas band together?
Well, I think
Yes.
the key thing there was
But-
you said animated. You
Right,
know,
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's
the
true.
casting.
Well,
that-
that's a great point too, though, because I mean, we've talked about this before, but like that's the evil of CGI, though, is that before we had CGI, they used to say, "Let's do this," and then we say we could never do that.
Yeah.
So then, like, it would limit them from dumb ideas. But now that we have CGI,
Well, then stop them from
It's-
making the Blob.
Yeah, okay, fair
CGI
point.
for that terrible movie.
That's okay. It stopped certain producers,
Right.
I guess, from doing things that would have been bad, and now it doesn't. So
Now it
now
doesn't.
they're like, we can animate this.
They
We
can give
do
life
that.
to their
Like,
fantasy.
let's talk
Yeah.
real life movie. Most of these real life movies are not real life movies. It's just like real life looking animated CG. So.
Yeah, and you can tell, and but the thing was like, because you're right, like I would have been okay with gorilla banding together, which they did, but this was all animals.
Yeah.
We're talking about crocodiles coming up out of the river to join in the fight. Like,
Well, it's gotta be
I'm gonna
grander.
lead this
It's
pack
gotta
of
be
wildebeest like a Lion King scene right through the town. I mean, it was really terrible, and just the NEC where Christoph Waltz is about to die. It's like the Crocs came right at the right moment to help Tarzan. I'm like, okay, guys, this is just so over the top.
Did he fall off a cliff?
Oh, wait, what?
Did the bad guy fall off a cliff or did
No, he
Tarzan-
didn't.
Okay.
It was more of like a drowning / crocodile ate him type of a thing.
Okay, so the big bad crocodile.
But I'll tell you this, Tarzan,
So like second
that
Indiana
dude
Jones.
was one of the most rippedest dudes I've ever, like, he was jacked in that movie. But they had these stupid vine swinging scenes where they're like going to swing down onto this train. And
Onto a train
it's like,
in the
okay,
jungle?
and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I know this is way over the top and it's already stupid, so why not, right? And I'm like, okay, the vine is probably this long. They're going to swing down onto the train and get on the train. I get it. No, we're going to swing around on the same vine for about 30 seconds and knock all of on the moving train, and we're going to, on one vine, and we're going to knock all of this guards that happen to be on the top of the train
Right.
off.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With Samuel L. Jackson on my back.
Wait,
I was like,
Samuel
this is
Samuel L. Jackson.
this is beyond stupid. He is in that movie.
Yeah, he's
but
in that.
it was
Dude,
pretty-
there's
it
a
was
lot
beyond-
of big names in that movie. I don't know what they were thinking.
That's what I want to know. I want to know why.
Christoph Waltz,
I wanna
Margot
know-
Robbie,
I wanna know
Samuel
why
L.
so many self-respecting actors and actresses allow themselves to be in these movies. Like, are they not given the script until the very end? Like, do they film the whole
don't know.
movie? They're contractually obligated to sort of be in it after they sign something, and then they read the script and like, oh, this is terrible. Why did I choose that?
I don't know.
That's why I say I want to be in the studio or the room with these people.
Fly on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just be like, what's going through their head, really? I mean, they're just saying, just throw it out there, you know. No one's gonna notice, you know. And then there's idiots like us who go and see the movie.
I was gonna say this might be all the consumer's fault. This might
You're right.
legitimately be. It's
It was
the
my
summer,
fault.
Let's go see a movie.
I give Tarzan 1.
Oh,
0.5 because Margot Robbie's gorgeous in it, and
yeah.
0.5 because Tarzan is just really ripped, and it takes a lot of work.
I was
to
gonna
do that.
say,
Well,
I was gonna
yeah.
say acting. I was just gonna say like the cast should give it automatically like a decent pointage.
Yeah, you got
like
Christoph
2 or
Waltz
3.
and-
Christoph Waltz is
Yeah,
awesome.
I
and
know.
He is good.
And I
He's good.
mean, I guess I'm not surprised Samuel L. Jackson was in it. He kind of is in everything. So.
Well, yeah, he. It's rare. It's rare, I think, for him to like turn down a role. I don't know if he just gets so many offers.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that it's rare that he gets turned down for a role. My suicide watch was, and Dove, you actually watched this with me, Through the Looking Glass.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
that's right. That's right. I wanted to hear about this.
Um,
Is Johnny Depp in that one as well?
yeah,
That's
Johnny.
a sequel.
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Yes.
yes, it is. And
Poor Johnny Depp.
I-
Speaking
I-
of actors
I-
that'll do anything.
I've never seen a sequel make so many side characters irrelevant in one film. I mean, they became so irrelevant so fast. You know, she came back into the world and hey, we're all here and we've all been hanging out together and we haven't changed. It's kind of like just the same as you left us. And I one thing that I love about Pixar, the Toy Story. Hear me sing the praises of Pixar 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I think from all three of us probably. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one thing that I loved about Pixar was the fact that when they did Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, they went seamlessly in between each film. They reintroduced the old characters, and they were not irrelevant. They were still irrelevant the whole time, all the way through the series. Every new film that you saw with them in it, you weren't like, okay, what's he doing here? This is weird. He's not contributing anything. Never thought that about any of the side
Well, that's
characters.
true, except for I do want to shout out to Little Bo Peep, who was eliminated in the third.
She was
movie.
eliminated, but that's the
And-
thing. They
and-
couldn't make her relevant, so they got rid of her.
Well, that's
Can we
true,
talk?
but also so sad.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
like,
okay.
Where's
It was
Little
so
Bo
sad.
Peep?
It was
and
sad.
she's gone. And
Right,
she, like,
but
barely got
that's
mentioned.
that's Pixar's dedication to a good film. We can't use this character, so we're not going to try to force it.
That's
We're going to
true.
get rid of her.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And Through the Looking Glass, she pops right back in. First off, it started off with a scene that I was like absolutely floored by, and it was Alice commandeering a ship through a storm, and it was so
Running
over
away
the
from
top.
bad guys.
Yeah, running away from Chinese pirates,
What?
and
Yeah.
I'm not making this up. So
I believe you.
she commandeers this vessel, and she's MacGyvering her way around the rocks, right? And it was so outlandish and so ridiculous that I thought she was dreaming. I kept telling Dove, she's going to wake up any second. This is a dream. She's going to wake up. It's going to be so, it's like, oh, typical. It was
Nope.
a dream. Nope. Didn't wake
You were
up.
not dreaming.
I was the one who had to wake up out of the stupor. I had to wake up out of the stupor of believing that this was, some sort of like fantasy. It wasn't. It was completely real.
But in a way, it's genius because they kept my attention at the same time.
Well,
You know what?
kept my
In the
attention
same way,
'cause
I'm
I was
going-
like, she's going to wake up.
I'm like,
any
this is
second.
so ridiculous that I'm watching it for the sheer shock factor of seeing if they're actually serious about this scene right now.
Right. Yes.
So this is in real life?
This is in real
Like,
life.
it's
She
not
didn't
even in
wake up.
Wonderland?
No, she's not in Wonderland yet. This is more outlandish than actually being in Wonderland. I said
Wonderland was normal.
Listen, I know. I submit to you that
What
the
did they
Mad
do?
Hatter made more sense in this world that we inhabit than that reality that they try to present.
What they do? They
in that
tipped the
film.
ship,
Yeah,
right?
but-
They turned down the sails on one side, turned them up on the other, and then it tipped the ship sideways to avoid
The real thing is, who cares?
I kind of think that though that might be a great metaphor for movies today.
What?
That it made more sense in Wonderland than it did.
Yeah, we just talked about
Oh.
Tarzan. Can we
Yeah.
talk?
Exactly.
And
We
again,
talked
yeah,
about
and again,
Tarzan.
this is like, and too, because people will probably, people listening to this will be like, it's a movie. That's how they're supposed to go.
Right.
Yes, and you're right, and I do realize that. But there are things, there's over the top, and then there's like really over the top, where it's
Right.
just ridiculous.
Right, but-
and you feel like they could have done the scene the same way and had the same effect.
Yeah.
Just by it seems like so simple that they could do it just so much better than that. There's like better options,
Right.
And still have the same effect that you want to have.
But again, you can't do that and be a feminist. Okay,
But-
you can't
but-
do that. It's
but-
impossible.
okay,
you
but
have to
speaking-
create this fantasy world.
Okay, I
Right.
see where you're going.
Wait,
I was gonna say, speaking of being on the wall, though, there are being a fly on the wall. There is some part of me that wonders if the top executives, right, the ones that are like being funneled all this
Yes.
money.
Yeah.
There's some part of me that wonders if they like take bets, like have betting pools, like let's put this in a movie and see
probably
how
do.
much money we can make, and
Yeah.
then like that's I think that
And
kind
they
of
kill
might
it
be
every
what's
time.
fueling.
Well, a great feature about my IMDb app is the fact that I visit it often now for movies that I hate in hopes that the movie lost money. And it looks like Through the Looking Glass lost. I mean, from last time I checked, it was like $170 million budget estimated, and it made like $70 million. So I hope they lost $100
so
million.
this was
on
this
it.
was a this
except
was a
for the
movie.
fact that it's still through Disney, right? And Disney just made like $5 billion on Rogue One.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Transition.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, real quick question. So that movie was worse than you thought, or better than you thought?
Well, actually, it was better than I thought because I didn't even make it through Alice in Wonderland. I had to turn that one off. It was so boring and
Yeah.
irrelevant and stupid. This one was actually better, and I have to credit Sacha Baron Cohen for that.
Yeah,
I do.
he had a good- yeah.
He was in this movie.
He was in the movie. He was
He
funny.
actually did a good
yeah,
job.
he did a good job. So I had to.
It was
I
better than
credit
the first
him.
one. It really was.
Yeah, it was better.
Yeah.
I credit him with saving that movie or making something out of nothing. And when I watched the film, I saw his character, and right away his character was interesting to me, and the way that he pulled it off, I wanted to watch him. And
Alice was better too. Her character was better.
maybe
than
because
the
she had a
first one.
purpose in this one, rather than just
she was
wandering
just
around
nice.
aimlessly.
She was a
like,
little
going,
bit
"What's
more
going on?"
nice. She was just a little bit more nice. Had less of a tude.
Oh, and there was a great scene in there. Rest in peace, Alan Rickman.
Wait, what?
He
He's-
played the
he's in-
caterpillar for like 30 seconds.
Really? Was
Yeah.
it filmed before?
I guess so because he wasn't in the movie for the rest
Really?
of the
I
movie.
didn't
Yeah,
even
it was
notice
in the
that.
beginning.
Oh.
Alan Rickman, don't you know he was the butterfly?
Yeah, but I didn't notice that he was there and then go. I didn't even
Oh,
notice
yeah.
that in the
Yeah,
movie.
he was.
That's sad.
Okay,
Yeah.
speaking
Wait,
of
can I-
there and go ahead.
Is Alice? So is Alice Through the Looking Glass? Is that an actual novel? Like is that
Through the
all-
Looking Glass, yeah, it's
Through
part
the look,
two.
it's like
yeah. You got
So
Alice
Alice
in
in Wonderland
Wonderland
and Alice Through the Looking Glass
no,
are both
not,
novels.
it's not called
by-
Alice Through the Looking Glass. The novel is Through the Looking Glass.
Oh, okay.
That's just what.
But
it's
it is
called.
based off of a novel. Okay, so they
Yes.
didn't just like create
No.
one. They didn't create one based off the novel, which was Alice in Wonderland, and
No.
then go, let's make a sequel.
Correct,
No,
yeah.
Well, I mean, they did do that, but
Okay.
they had to butcher another book to do that,
Okay,
which
awesome.
was more outlandish than Lewis Carroll could ever possibly hope to imagine.
I know, poor Lewis Carroll.
I feel bad.
Rip Lewis Carroll
Yeah,
as
rip
well.
Lewis Carroll. Okay, look. First off, all right. Now that we talked about our suicide watches, it's now time to go on to the main event. Let's talk about Rogue One. Rogue One.
Let's do it.
Where do we wanna
Episode.
start?
Okay, first off, there's lots of controversy about, a lot of people just don't know where Rogue One took place. You can consider Rogue One, and I know I'm probably going to get crucified by a lot of Star Wars fans for saying this, but Rogue One is pretty much episode 3.5. Can we talk?
Oh yeah, no,
Yes.
but it's supposed to be though.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
though.
It's supposed to be. It happens between episode 3 and 4, in which the Death Star plans are stolen from an Imperial base by a squad of misfits. Where have we heard this one before? Dove, your thoughts?
This is one of the like, I'm pretty good with movie trailers. I'm usually pretty accurate, and I'm not 100% accurate, but I'm pretty good, and especially, and you kind of should be with today's trailers. They reveal so much. I thought this movie was going to be just a continuation of Force Awakens. You got another female lead. Not that that's bad, but it's just the track record so far has not been that great.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, this is just Rogue One. This is just, Ray 2, basically.
Right.
And they showed a couple scenes in the preview where it was like, look kind of lame. They had Donnie Yen talking a couple times. I was like, that just looks like a corny one-liner.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And helmet hitting, we're going to hit, stormtroopers with sticks, and they're gonna be knocked out
we're
because
gonna
of,
talk about that. That's a big one on my list.
Okay, right, good. Well, it's good.
Terrible.
And I'm like, okay, can we get past the helmet hitting and now they're knocked out? But anyways, it was nice. I thought to see not so many lightsabers. I thought that was nice, and it made when you see too many lightsabers, it kind of lessens the effect of the lightsaber, and you're like, oh, there's another one, and but I will tell you that like when the lightsaber came out, and I don't want to like spoil it. Well, everybody's seen it. What the heck?
But spoilers. Okay, let's just put that
spoiler
alert out
alert.
there.
Stop listening if you don't want to hear this.
Skip
But
ahead.
when the lightsaber did come out at the end, I felt like they really delivered on that, and I was satisfied with.
No.
I can't.
I was satisfied with
Okay,
it,
I have
just at the end when Vader shows up, and they built it up, I thought really well towards the end, and when he showed up, I immediately when the lightsaber came out, I went, it's over. They have no chance. They're done.
Right.
They're dead.
But they did have a.
Okay, hang on a
Right,
second.
right, yeah.
Okay, synopsis.
Okay, right.
Synopsis.
But I mean, overall, I thought it was good. I was entertained by the movie. I thought they had a really cool the scene where they had that when using the Death Star weapon, and they won, and they had that explosion scene, and the explosion lasted forever. I thought that was a really cool scene. I thought, I've never seen that in a movie before, and 7. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It was better than the preview, and I was wrong about the preview.
You're saying that was a 7 out of 10? Really?
Yeah, before I said 6 or 7, I would probably say 7.
Okay.
I mean, because I did enjoy it. I can't think of too many things that I hated about
All
it.
right,
Those
Mr.
are
Baney.
bold words.
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead,
how
man.
much of this do you want me to get into?
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Well,
All right.
just give us your feelings on the movie, my
Okay,
friend.
so I now I have been wondering if what kind of a theater you see movies in tends to change how you feel about a movie.
Yes.
Because I tend to go to see big movies like this in like an IMAX theater, and this time we didn't. It was like a spur of the moment. Let's go see it. So we went to our nearest theater, which is like it's okay, but the sound was kind of not nearly as strong.
I think it's interesting that such a big movie was ever even seen as a spur of the moment movie.
I didn't want to see it. So I guess
Oh, you didn't even want to see it in the beginning.
So I guess I should start by saying this. I've been thinking from the get-go that Disney is gonna just give us crap and just use it as a ticket for money. Like they're just.
I would agree with that. Seeing
they're just
Force
gonna print-
Awakens, absolutely.
So okay, I actually gave Disney the benefit of the doubt, and I said that like episode 7 and 8, and maybe like one of the spin-offs will be really, really good, and then it'll like lose quality over time because they just wanted to print money. And then we can get into the fact that I don't really think either of the first two have been that great. Yeah. I actually like Force Awakens a lot more than this one.
Right.
But
I can't even believe
but
that.
anyway,
My
so
ears hurt.
So okay, so I am gonna say though, So what I did say about this was I was really jaded after Force Awakens, and then I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to give them one chance for these spin-off movies. I was like, I'll go see this. If it's awesome, then I'll continue to see them until they go bad. Or if it's bad, then I'm never going to see another one in theaters again. I'll watch them, but I'm probably not going to go see them in theaters. The spin-off movies, I will see episode 8 and 9.
Right.
And so that was kind of my feeling. And so, yeah, it was a spur-of-the-moment decision. We were like, let's go see a movie. And we were like, what do we want to see? And there was no times for Moana, so we went to see Rogue One.
Oh boy!
That's great.
That's what
that was
happened.
probably better anyway. Oh.
Yeah, it probably was.
It probably was. So I've heard it's really good, actually. So anyway, we went to see it, but the theater wasn't great. The quality wasn't great. The sound really was off, I thought. So that might have hurt it a
This
little
is
bit.
irrelevant to the story, my friend.
All right, irrelevant. So specifically, I thought that all of the movie like that builds up until the end, I think is just trash. Like I think the acting of the two main characters, they're not likable at all.
Wow.
At the end of the
okay.
they
could have used some help.
spoilers. I guess huge spoilers.
I should.
I honestly, there's a point at the end where they look like they're gonna die, the two main characters, and then they don't. They kill the evil guy, right? And so when they do that, I honestly shouted no in the theaters. I shouted no. I want them to die.
Wow.
Kill them.
Oh,
Do
my
not
word.
kill all these interesting side characters and let these two trash main characters live. I shouted no in the theater out loud. Athena had to tell me to be quiet.
So even though they did die, that didn't satisfy.
No, so they did die eventually.
Okay.
When they nuked the whole planet, they died. So then I was
Right.
like, okay, that's satisfied. That was one of the better parts of the movie. So
When the main characters died, he's like, "This is the best part."
I just really thought the whole story is based around what, Jin and Cassian, is that the
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cassian, yeah.
So it's based around them. So they actually had interesting side characters, but those interactions are all informed by the interactions between the main two characters, which I just thought was terrible. So I thought the acting was awful for the two of them. I thought the acting was terrible. I thought their characters were not only so lame, they were so cookie cutter. Like just that whole intro scene where she sees her mom die, and I'm just like, come
Right.
on, we can't come up with anything else that's remotely interesting. This is
Okay.
repetitive.
Wow.
The last character that we saw on Star Wars, I submit to you, that was not a cookie cutter, was
Okay,
probably
fair point.
Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, okay.
That was probably the last. There was no person in the episode 7. There's no character that's not a cookie cutter character in episode 7. There's
Also,
nobody original.
I guess
in that
all I'm
movie.
thinking is they took 20 years to make the prequels after the first 3, and then they took another 10 years to start making these. But I'm already tired of that. I'm also already tired of the Death Star. There's some part of me that
Yes.
wonders if they had taken this movie and put it a little bit farther in the timeline when we stopped dealing with Death Stars. But after a Death Star shows up in Force Awakens, and you're like, why again? Why is this
Planet.
happening again?
Yeah.
Death Planet. After that happens, dealing with the original Death Star again was just totally uninteresting to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Other things I hated was they got Mads Mikkelsen and Forrest
Mads
Whitaker,
Mikkelsen.
who are both decent actors.
Right. Right.
And their characters were actually compelling.
Yeah.
And then they kill Forrest Whitaker off. That actually scene was kind of interesting. He seemed like he was interesting. Then they kill him off. And I was literally watching the few things that they did well in this movie die off.
Yes.
I wasn't honestly upset that
okay.
he died. I wasn't upset that the character died.
Yes.
I was like, oh, they already killed Forrest Whitaker off. There goes half the talent in the movie.
Yes.
And then 20 minutes
Right.
later,
So characters you liked, they killed early, and you would have liked to have seen more.
well, it
of
wasn't
them.
even characters that I liked. They didn't give me
Okay.
enough to like the character. It was just the actor's good. So I was like, okay, there's bad acting. Oh, Forrest Whitaker's here. He's a decent actor. This is kind of interesting. Oh, he's dead. Okay. All right. So also left with is Mads Mikkelsen.
I really liked Mads in
I know.
that. I thought he
I
looked
love
cool.
Mads too. And
yeah.
so I was like, okay, great. So we still have Mads, and then they killed him off in a really lame scene, and I was like, all right, well, there goes the whole movie.
Yeah.
And so
You're like not just that. You're like,
only
please
go
kill
down.
up. Please hurry up and
You
kill
can
off
only
the
go
two main
down from here.
characters.
what?
You can only go down from here
I
after they
gotcha.
killed off Mads.
Yeah, it was both times.
That's funny,
both
man.
times it can only go down from here. I also thought the motivations for the characters, I thought they were giant plot holes. They essentially get Jin to help Cassian find Forrest Whitaker's character by claiming that they will give her a free pass. How can they guarantee a free pass when the Empire has control of the galaxy? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The Empire's taken
Sure.
over. So how the rebels we know you have a track record and you could be taken in and captured at any time. We found you in this little tank where they were transporting you as a prisoner.
Now you can hide with us.
Right, exactly. What's a free pass mean? You get
Yeah.
to chill with the queen? Is that it? You get to be her servant? What is a free pass? How could they do that? It didn't make any sense in the Star Wars universe, but yet she uses that to go and find Forrest Whitaker's character.
And
Okay.
from what you were saying earlier, you didn't like the recycled plot from Saving Private Ryan. It
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
to be your biggest problem.
Well, that is my biggest problem because the ending could have been really good. I mean, it is a really good action. It is a decent action sequence, but they were killing even when they were killing off the side characters. I was really upset when they killed off K9. I actually thought he was a really good character, the android.
Yes.
Or the robot. But all the other characters, they were interesting. They were really compelling, but they just didn't do much with them. And then they were dying. And if you watch Saving Private Ryan, they do so much great character development. Each of these, there are so many little between the really huge war scenes, the end and the beginning.
Yes.
There's so many really cool little interactions that make you
Yes.
love those characters.
That's true. You know,
that
and
when
that-
they die, you're devastated.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
when the
Exactly.
sniper dies in the
Yes,
tower, when he gets
exactly.
blown up by the
Gotcha.
attack, devastated.
Yeah, those are
And
good
this-
points.
and in this movie, I was never devastated.
I got you. And the whole time you're probably thinking about Saving Private Ryan while you're watching this,
Oh, I was,
right?
yeah.
Okay, and you're right. Because I made the point to Luke. I'm like, because Luke was telling telling me he wanted more character development too, right? And I'm sitting there going, I am giving a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt, and I'm going, dude, but you have all this, and you're trying to cram it all in here. How can you get more character development, right? But it's a good point to say, well, they did it in this movie.
Right. Exactly.
They did it in Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
You know, but I mean, maybe there was a half-hour extra time length, maybe on that. That's a very long movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, and I told Luke, I was like, maybe, like, I know we can, but like, are we asking too much to try to get too much out of these characters?
No, it's Disney.
You know,
for
and
crying
you're right.
out loud.
I
I mean, they cut a loud fart and a movie comes out. For crying out loud. Why can't we spend some money on the plot rather than the stupid CGI
The
for
writers,
once?
come on.
The writers
Hire
can do it.
decent
We know
writers.
they can do it.
See,
they can afford them.
And I felt like they
Well, I guess-
did.
and
I
also
felt like they really did compared to Force Awakens. I thought this was like. I mean, if the character development is still this bad on Rogue One, I thought it was night and day compared to Force Awakens
Well,
characters.
I don't know about,
Arguably, it was.
Well, hold
night
on.
and day.
Force Awakens characters or specific one character? Because I honestly thought they don't.
No,
do much
all of
with-
them. I didn't care about. I didn't care about Han. I didn't care about Luke. I didn't care about anyone. I did not
Gotcha.
care about any character in that.
I
And
thought
and,
John
and I'm
Boyega-
not unnostalgic Han. Like, I'm not talking about, like, I love the old Han.
Yeah.
That Han, I'm like, who's this guy, man? I just that whole movie. That's a whole nother subject. I couldn't
Right.
stand anything in that movie, but
Yeah, that.
Go
that
ahead, I'm
was-
sorry.
that
No, it's okay.
movie
I
was
mean, I
terrible.
can cut off too. I think I've said the majority of. I mean, I
Yeah.
have so much to say about this movie.
what about helmet hitting?
Huh?
Helmet.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Stormtrooper helmet. thing.
I know. She's beating Storm. I like honestly. You're kind of
Yeah.
like at this point. The most disappointing part about that, right, is that technically since this is between 3 and 4, the clone army should still be sort of like prevalent. Like we do find out later that like the stormtrooper quality goes down after like the clone troopers kind of
Yes.
end off
Yeah.
and they have to get real people to be stormtroopers. The quality goes down and apparently the armor quality goes way down.
Yeah.
But actually that was another plot point too that I thought was the whole. It's set. I guess it's set a long time ago, but it's a sci-fi movie, kind of like I guess they've been more fantasy than sci-fi, but it's set in space. Like they can fly around in space. So why can't they transmit something? Like that whole transmitter bit at the end, where they were like, "The file is too big."
well,
like,
see,
come on, we can
that-
compress files into like.
I think, but
2
I will say
megabytes.
this. I think Joey
and
at
send them on
that
our
point in the
phones.
movie is there's a point where you go where it clicks and you go over the top, right?
Yeah,
And all
okay,
you
that's fair.
see for the rest of the movie. This happened in Force Awakens when she started telling Han how to fly the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
At that point,
yeah.
everything in the movie was
Okay,
terrible.
that's fair.
You know, and
They
you're right.
crossed
You
the
are
line. They
looking.
crossed the line.
Yeah,
You
they
are
crossed the line.
looking for bad stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and but even though those are valid points.
Here's what I have to say about that. I think the reason that they can get away with nonsense like that is because they qualify by saying a long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
It's
that
a
makes
long
sense.
time ago. So I mean, the technology wasn't there. So I mean, anything is justifiable because since it's in a galaxy far away,
Yeah,
it's
that's
sci-fi. And
Thank you,
it's
George
also
Lucas.
fantasy, so you can justify any. That's why you have people. What was Luke Skywalker riding around on when he got when he
the
or-
speeder,
Yeah,
No, not the speeder.
some animal thing,
Yeah, the animal when he
Oh,
was
yeah.
on the frozen planet. What was
Oh,
the
yeah,
the
yeah.
Jabberwocky.
No,
No,
the,
not the Jabberwocky.
Let's
Let's go back to Alice in Wonderland, please.
Uh,
Remind me
it's,
of
Starts
that
with a
movie.
T, I think.
The
Tautan or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I
the
forget.
Velociraptor
Yes.
thing.
And
with
the
the
fact
Velociraptor with
fact
hair.
that we're not Star Wars fans, but Star Wars observers is showing very badly here.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
we
know-
should've-
Well,
we
it was
should've
well,
clarified
Joey
that.
really he got real nerdy there for a second, but he got into a little bit of Star Wars like plot lines. I was like, wow, that's pretty
Tauntaun,
good.
that's it,
Yeah.
Tauntaun.
Tauntaun.
Yes. So that's why you can justify Luke
Wait,
Skywalker and Han Solo going around on an animal when over here you got a speeder that's going 90 miles or
Gotcha.
9
Yeah.
million miles an hour. You know, they got light speed, but he's still walking around on a stupid animal.
Yeah.
So that's why you can justify anything. Anything is just any sort of lack of technology or over
I have an
technology
explanation- I have a really
is
good explanation for
absolutely
that.
justified.
I have a good explanation for that.
Hit me.
It's too stinking cold for a speeder. You freeze, but you can run around on a slower animal.
So you're saying to me that a human being can survive in those conditions, but a machine can't? Because they're riding on
No,
it.
because you ever rode a motorcycle? You're going super fast.
Well,
and it's too cold.
Okay, how about
No,
put like a windshield or dome
I
or
don't know.
something
Well,
on that
well,
thing?
I'm
They can do it in
assuming-
space.
I know, but listen,
they can't be any colder than
do they-
space.
Listen,
Space
I
is
know, but
negative
listen,
400
hold on,
degrees.
Maybe there's
Hold on,
no
I think-
speed
I think
limit,
I
but
understand.
wait, okay, I get it, but I guess I'm assuming they don't have any type of governor.
Well, no,
Like
no,
they,
I
like they,
understand.
they
I
can only
understand
go
what-
90
I
miles an
think I
hour or
understand- hold on,
zero.
I think I understand what Duv's saying. I think the plan was that you ride the Tauntaun, and then like when it gets really cold at night, you kill it and then cut it open and sleep inside of it, like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant.
Oh yeah,
That was, I think, the
Oh,
plan.
wait
You
a
can't
minute.
really do that in the speeder. So.
that's
Oh.
true. I mean, you'd have to turn on
Well-
the heat, and the battery might run
Well,
out.
listen, but I wasn't thinking of the fact, though, that the speeder probably doesn't have just one speed, which is 90 miles an hour. It can probably go 15.
You know what? I would just
Right?
take an X-wing and fly around down there.
Have
I
you
mean,
ever
what's
seen,
wrong with that?
Have you ever seen one of those things go like 5 miles an hour? You're going from one tent to the other,
No.
like to give cookies to your neighbor out in Star Wars universe. You drop one.
I'm not sure if they have cookies out in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it's too long ago for that.
Here are my questions about the movie.
and too
okay.
long
They
ago
didn't
for
have-
data
they-
file.
they
Here
didn't
are
have
my,
ovens.
Here are my questions about that movie. Why did we have to go back to the fact that
Stormtroopers are just terrible.
why are we still
Actually-
perpetuating that
actually,
nonsense?
I actually thought that movie might have. They actually might have been trying to joke about how terrible stormtroopers are in that movie.
Yeah, it
'Cause
looked
they-
like a joke. You're right. It
they
looked like a joke.
They abuse them in that movie. They find every
It was
reason
terrible.
to abuse them.
They were worse than I've ever seen them in that movie. That was the worst I've ever seen a stormtrooper
Really?
perform. Yes, they were in point blank, close quarter. And I know this has happened before, but this was like what you said. It was almost like this running joke that, hey, look, here it is again. They still can't hit anybody, and we're making movies here in
I think it was
2016.
But they
running
did.
joke.
But they
I
did
honestly
kill
think-
guys at the end. They did kill the people.
Yeah, they've always been killing
People
They
when it
did
suits
kill
the
them.
plot. But
Yeah.
when we're talking about realistic interaction with these people, it never happens that they actually get a good shot. And it's 2016. We're still perpetuating that.
So it's like
Nonsense?
the AI went to Nintendo 64 instead of PS4.
Or how about this? They just kept the AI at Game Boy, and when they could have increased it to PlayStation 4. So why are we still perpetuating that? Why can't we respect the Stormtroopers anymore? It's episode 3, right? 3.5, right? So in episode 2 is when they brought out the Stormtroopers. So this isn't that far away. This is what?
I'm pretty
20
sure,
years?
I'm pretty sure Clone Army was still supposed to be like involved. They weren't all over the place.
So we're
but-
talking about 20 years
and Clone-
after.
and we're talking Jango Fett.
Jango
like,
Fett
Fett
here.
can shoot things. Come on.
Arguably 20 years after Jango Fett. Okay, maybe liberal estimate 50 years. Not even that much, because Darth Vader's still kicking around. So, why are we still perpetuating that myth? Or that stereotype, of I want to respect these bad guys, but I can't respect them because they can't hit anything with their stupid blasters.
Well, that's part of what makes it so unbelievable at the end too. The Nazis were terrifying. And so again,
Right.
when you
Yes.
go to Saving Private Ryan,
Yes.
you want to see our soldiers kick some Nazi butt.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, okay, we have to put camouflage on the stormtroopers in
Yeah.
order to get them to shoot
Yeah.
anything.
Well, you know what though, and that's a
Oh,
little
the
bit different.
elites.
You're right, but the funny thing about Star Wars is I don't know. I don't really wish that the good guys win because I think the dark side is just so much cooler.
Yeah, they've always done that kind of poorly. Speaking of which, though, that was my last issue was Darth Vader.
Oh,
The Darth Vader scene. Okay, the Darth Vader
I'm
scene.
going to defend
Oh,
this scene.
man.
I'm going to
Hold on.
defend it.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no,
Go
you're
ahead.
I want to hear this.
You're not
I want to
gonna
hear
defend
this.
Yes, I am.
I'm just claiming, they do the Darth Vader scene really well.
Okay.
They do it really well. He's awesome. He comes out. He's like Michael Myers. Like comes out,
Yeah.
terrifying figure,
Puny
starts
humans.
killing people.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
However, the only issue is that they still get away with it, and they technically have to. But this whole thing where the door jams, but he still hands him the hard drive through the door, and they're able to blast off before Darth Vader stops them. If you can't tell me this dude's blocking bullets, and he doesn't see the hard drive and just use the Force to pull it over.
Okay,
Like,
listen.
come
Okay,
on.
listen. I'm
Come
going to defend that
on.
scene, and here we go. Okay. First off, Darth Vader does not have Force knowledge. Okay, he just doesn't know everything. Secondly, he comes onto the ship blind as a bat. He doesn't know what he's coming into. He doesn't know that they have the plans. He just knows that they're out there doing something wrong. So when he comes in, he doesn't know that guy has the plans to the Death Star and he's handing it. For all he knows, he's handing a love letter to his lost wife
Again,
back in Tatooine.
No, because he does know that he's there to stop them from doing that. That's why
Yeah, but he
gets on
doesn't
there.
know that they have it. I mean, he doesn't.
Right,
I mean, he
okay.
walks onto the ship and he has no idea what's going on. So he
Darth-
sees a bunch of rebels, so he just starts killing them.
Okay, that's fair, but again, they should have done the scene differently because what they do is the door won't open at all when he steps onto the ship and starts killing people, and then it opens a little bit, and then the guy's like, "Oh, take this," for like a really long time. What they should have done is Darth Vader, like the door opens, Darth Vader walks out as soon as the guy hands the other guy the hard drive, so that we get like Darth Vader still killing people.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't get the cool lightsaber through the door scene.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's
I mean, if that's
also, can we talk about Leia and the digital CGI face? They also did it to the other guy. I hated that. Sorry, that was just another thing that I hated. Another thing you should never do with CGI is make fake faces for people who are too old.
That are dead.
well,
the dead.
I mean, I actually didn't mind that. I mean, I
hated that.
Oh, really? I didn't mind.
I
that.
think.
That was-
Okay,
What are you gonna do, dude?
Joey, man.
What are you gonna
At
do?
this point, Beatty, man, it's all terrible. It's all of it.
I think Dove might be right. There was some point in the movie where I cracked and I was like, I've had enough. I've had enough of all of this garbage.
Oh man, that's funny.
Well, see, to me,
I like the
you
Darth Vader
couldn't
scene. I
get
thought
worse
they
than
delivered.
episode 7. So
I
you
thought
only
it
had
was.
up
I
to
thought
go
it was.
from there. I did not
Okay,
think
so
it was
all
worse
right.
than episode
So
7.
I
First
put-
off,
Oh,
you
man.
had interesting characters. Can we talk? Mads Mikkelsen himself, as soon as he shows up on the scene, he's an interesting. That movie suffered from the same thing. That terrible movie. I hesitate to even mention this movie, but it is Kingdom of Heaven. They killed off Liam Neeson in the first 20
and
minutes.
He was the coolest.
Oh,
dude
wait,
he was the
ever.
coolest
But
character.
wait a minute. You want to talk about killing
Godfrey.
off people? That also reminds me of Godzilla. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when they get on Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's why I went to see that movie.
Yes.
And then like
killed
Bryan
him.
Cranston's dead in
Yes.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Another guilty movie
Spoiler.
is and I hesitate to say this, hesitate to bring this name upon my lips, is Aragon. Okay, Brahm, right?
yeah.
Jeremy Irons. They killed him in the first
dude.
or half, and then the movie was over for me.
Dude,
It was
man,
like I
you-
don't care. Jeremy Irons is the man.
You pulled that out of there, man. Blast from the
Oh,
past.
Aragon.
Aragon.
Yeah, but I actually read those books. Those books are decent, but I loved those books, and I actually watched 15 minutes of that movie. My whole family wanted to watch it. I watched 15 minutes, and being an avid book reader of that series, I was like, no, this is terrible. But yeah,
so this movie suffered from the same thing. They killed off the most interesting. First off, I don't think
I agree with you.
Forrest Whitaker was an interesting character at all. I thought he was like, we're supposed to assume that he's a great man, but he just walks on the scene, and we're supposed to assume right off the bat without any evidence.
That's true, but
he's
to me, hold on.
half cyborg.
That's true, but to me, that part, like the part, I wasn't even necessarily saying that he was an interesting character, but that scene was the only one that actually interested me.
Oh,
so
okay.
like
All right.
the scene where they have the really weird Lovecraftian creature suck out the guy's brains, right?
Yes.
Like,
Right,
that was
right.
cool. That to me is like Star Wars. Like that's
Right,
when it
yes.
gets cool.
Yes.
And so the fight scene, I mean, again, beating the stormtroopers with a stick was ridiculous. But like when the actual like half Jedi guy comes out and fights, and his friend comes out and helps him, like those were some interesting. Okay, these are Star Wars-esque like scenes.
Yes.
And I thought that they could have developed Forrest Whitaker's character into something interesting, but instead he's just like a remnant, and then he dies. And
Yeah,
like,
and
what?
that's
He
right.
wasn't interesting. But again, there was acting talent there that just like.
Well, I think that this movie demonstrates, first off, if there's anything good that came out of this movie for me was the fact that I love Mads Mikkelsen now, because if for him to walk in there and make something out of nothing like what he did, and when he died, I was like, I knew he was going to die, but I was like, there goes the most interesting character, and he's had some of the least amount of screen time.
Well,
and after it was over, I was like, Mads Mikkelsen is such a good actor that I cared about him more than anybody else in this film, and he's only been on the screen for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my favorite thing that to me epitomizes like this movie is that I saw there was this thing about he did an interview right for the movie for Star Wars, and in the middle of the interview he opened a full bottle of vodka and just started drinking it.
Oh my
But the reason I think that's funny because he obviously could tell how terrible this movie was. Like to
Right.
me, like that was like his endorsement. of
Oh
this
my
movie.
gosh, Joey, man, baby, this is like, man, that's funny.
I honestly think that the movie, he's stuck doing Star Wars, and he's like, I can't believe my career has come to this. Not only that, but bad Star Wars. So all right. So I'm gonna end my rant here, my tirade here. I'm gonna end my tirade here by saying that I gave this movie a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
And I
So
see
3 points away from okay.
and I see I'm stuck between a 3 and a 4, but I'll give it a
Okay.
4. But I see Force Awakens as a 6 out of 10. So.
Yikes! Yikes!
Okay.
Gross. But
All right, just
yeah.
to,
and I actually like.
briefly defend Force Awakens
Oh
because
my
we've
God.
talked
Get
about
outta here.
this.
You've got
because
3
we-
seconds.
Leave.
All right. Oh, I didn't love the movie, but again, I do think Yeah, I do think the characters are interesting. I think from the start of the movie to the part where Rey gets captured, that the movie is actually interesting. Kylo Ren is scary. I love the whole John Boyega as like is a stormtrooper and then doesn't want to be one anymore. I love that. To me that actually gives the stormtroopers a lot of credit. I like the fighter pilot, even though he doesn't get a lot of like character development. And I like Rey, honestly. I like Rey, and then it all goes crazy when she gets captured, and then she's just using the Force randomly. And once she gets captured,
I know.
I
hear you.
that's
Not
fine.
go into
I just wanted to defend it because I think the movie is Star Wars. Like it really is Star Wars for like that part of the movie, and then once she gets captured, it all goes.
And
listen,
say,
we're not gonna end this segment with on a positive note about episode 7.
Okay,
So
I know that. That's why I'm
Go
saying.
ahead, go ahead.
And just final
Say
thought on Rogue One. I like
You're
the
dooming
fact.
our podcast right from the get-go, though, by trashing this much Star Wars. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, but with Rogue One, I really did like the fact that everyone died, simply because you don't see that in Hollywood ever. You don't see any movies like that ever, where all the lead characters, everybody just dies, and the only one that's living is Darth Vader. I'm happy with that. I like it.
But the thing is that it references not only Saving Private Ryan, but a lot of like good war movies, like Braveheart. I'm going spoilers for all these good war movies if you haven't seen them.
Right.
But like Braveheart, Mel Gibson dies, Glory, like they all die.
Yeah, that's true.
Like so, there's a lot of these really great dramas out there that are awesome movies, and it tries to mimic them, and it does it so badly.
They're all pretty old.
That's why I hate it. Yeah. I think that's why I hate it so much.
To wrap up the conversation about episode Rogue One, I'm severely disappointed that you have unlimited free reign on an original story and characters, and you just blew it. You just completely blew it. And
Rogue One or Force Awakens?
I'm talking about Rogue One.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm talking about Rogue One.
What's your what do you give it?
I mean, I give it a 3.5 out of 10.
Oh,
Really
he gave
worse
it lower
than
than
Beanie?
me.
Well, because the rewatchability
Okay,
of
I'm
it.
going to a 3. I'm going down to a 2.
Wow.
All right, that's right.
That's
right. You heard it here first. Rogue One and The Choice got the same rating. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
This is what I'm saying. The rewatchability of it is a huge effect for me on
Gotcha.
how I view a movie, and I'm probably never going to sit down and watch this movie again.
Oh,
What
never.
did it? My question is always, what did this contribute that no other movie has? Nothing. It had contributed nothing. We've seen this plot
just
before.
mimicked.
We've seen these characters before. It just mimicked.
Yeah.
And you had 30 years of prep time, arguably, to think about this and do something with it. You had unlimited free reign. You took the reins away from George Lucas, so you could say, "Hey, we're going to do this," and George Lucas says, "You know how they say jump." George Lucas says, "How high?" So you have all these writers sitting in a room. You can do whatever you want, and this is the best you got.
Yeah.
Terrible. So that takes points off.
It sounds like you're talking about Force Awakens, not Rogue One.
Well,
With all
Force
that
Awakens.
stuff.
Okay, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, when I give something a 1, I say this movie is bad. I don't like it, and neither should you. If I give it a 2, I'll say I don't like this movie. I understand if you don't share the same sentiments. But if I give something a 1, I'm saying I don't like it, and you should not like it either. Episode 7 is a 1. I don't like it. Nobody should like it. And if you, my friend, are out there and you are a Star Wars fan, I'm talking to you. Do not call yourself a Star Wars fan and give Episode 7 any kind of praise. There, I said it. I'm willing to defend it to death. That is a hill I am willing to die on.
Oh, my.
Anyway,
Can we move
moving on to the next segment. Okay. Lists. We're going to lists. This month, we decided to go with greatest villains to hit the silver screen. Ooh. Now, you can justify. Obviously, we had time to think about this because this required a lot of meditation. You can justify these villains any way, shape, or form. Now, if you say the Joker is the greatest villain to hit the silver screen, you have to justify some sort of form that Joker took on the silver screen. But you can't be like, Joker's the greatest villain because I read a comic book about him. No, okay, you can't do that. Okay, we're talking about people
related
that have been
on the screen.
In the screen. Okay,
Got
you
it.
can't
Yeah,
justify Heath Ledger Joker, which I know you're going to do. And I understand why.
Yeah.
But you can't say, well, he's great because he represents
the ultimate. He represents the comic book Joker. I'm not going to accept that
He
because
doesn't actually. So,
right.
yeah.
So I know you're ready for that, but I'm just bringing that up as an example.
That makes sense.
All right,
You're
Joseph, let's go
preemptively
with
jumping.
your.
Actually, don't start with me
Oh,
because
don't
I
start
actually want
with
to hear
you.
what you guys have.
Okay.
and
Oh
then-
man, look at that. He
All right,
defers.
fine. I'll go first.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh,
I don't mean to
okay.
defer.
I'll go first this time. Greatest villains to hit the silver screen.
Wait. Do they know it's top 5? Did you say top
Top
5?
five.
Okay.
Top five.
Top
Are
five.
you going to specify what?
According
movie
to Luke.
Yeah, I'm going to justify these. The top 4, I'm going to say are subjective, but I'm going to argue that number 1 is objective.
Ooh, I'm excited. This is why I wanted to start with you. But also, are you going to start from 5 and go
I'm
to
going
1?
to start from 5 and
Okay,
go to
cool.
1. Okay, so here we go. Greatest villains to hit the silver screen. A short story by Luke. Here we go. Greatest villains. Number 5 is a relatively unknown villain, but I have to say him because Duvv and I have talked about this before. Number 5 is a one Harlan de Groot, played by Woody Harrelson from Out of the Furnace.
Good villain. Good choice.
I had to say this because a
That's a
mark
good
of a
choice.
good silver screen villain is the fact that every time he's on screen, I'm uncomfortable. I'm scared. I talked with you about this, Joey, before. I think about there are roles that I feel like actors are just born to play.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I see a certain actor, I look at that actor and I judge him forever by that role that he played. Like, for example, I think Brad Pitt doesn't act in the Ocean series. To me, he's just being himself.
Yeah.
I think that's how Brad Pitt is all the
I think that's
time.
most of them, actually.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So every actor to me, like Johnny Depp and Donnie Brasco, that's how I think Johnny Depp is all the time. And I know this is probably not true, but they do such a good job acting that they've convinced me that this is how I am 24/7. So when I watched Out of the Furnace, I look at Woody Harrelson. I'm like, you can't tell me that he's not like that all the time. You know,
Really?
he's not acting.
He was
That's
nasty.
how he
That
really
was like-
is.
that's
He
like-
was so scary, and he did
he
such
was-
a good job.
yeah,
he was phenomenal.
I
That was
actually
a
wish
good
that Woody
villain.
Harrelson would play more villains.
Yes,
Because
he doesn't.
I think he's really good at it.
Right, he is.
He doesn't.
He demonstrated in that movie
he likes,
perfectly.
He likes to play characters that are like morally ambiguous, but he doesn't play villains. And
Right.
Yeah, he was-
Right,
was-
anti-heroes and all
He
that.
was scary in that.
He was
Do you-
unbelievably scary in
Yeah.
that movie. Every time he
That's
was
a
on
really good
screen,
one.
I just was not comfortable, and I was actually scared of him. My honorable mention in that category, number 5, would be Boggs, played by Mark Ralston from Shawshank Redemption, another character who I was just every time he was around.
Number 4, you said?
He was he's the honorable mention for that for
honorable
number
mention.
5.
Okay.
That every time he was around, I was just like, this guy. I'm scared of him. I'm scared of this guy. So
Man, good choices. Those are great.
okay, number 4. I'm gonna go with. I didn't have an honorable mention for this one because I couldn't think of one. But number 4 would be Biff, played by Thomas Wilson from Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
I have to say Biff because I think he represents a bully that we all know in our life. That person. It's interesting that Biff, Marty McFly never defeats Biff. Never. He's always running from him. He gets chased in and beat up in Back to the Future Part 1. Back to the Future Part 2, he gets beat up again. And Back to the Future Part 3, he gets drug around by a horse. And doesn't he ultimately get defeated by Doc Brown in Back to the Future
I don't
Part 3? I
remember.
forget who
I haven't
defeats
watched 3 in
Biff.
forever, so, yeah.
It's been a while, so it might have actually been Marty McFly, but consider the fact that he had not it was in episode 1, it was George McFly that defeated Biff. Marty never did. He never defeated him. And there are those people in our lives. I think Biff is a good representation of those people in our lives that are just bigger and stronger than you, and they're always going to beat you no matter what you do. And I think he's a great villain in that respect. I didn't have an honorable mention for that one.
That's good.
Number 3 is a little stereotypical, but I had to go with her. And Duvv, you might have her on your list. Maleficent, played by Eleanor Audley from Sleeping Beauty, and I'm not talking about Angelina Jolie. Okay, I'm talking about the original OG. A lot of people. I'm surprised. I've seen the top lists on YouTube of greatest Disney villains, and she's not number 1. My question is, how many Disney villains can say this? You are a disgrace to the forces of evil. None. She's the only one who said that. She said, you're a disgrace to the forces. I mean, and she says when she turns to the dragon, now my dear prince, you shall deal with me, and all the powers of hell. What other Disney villain can say that?
Yeah,
she's the
great.
worst.
She's great.
She is the ultimate example of good versus
There's
evil.
nothing good in her.
There's nothing good. She
She's
lives.
black heart.
She lives to further the destinies of all that is wicked.
Yeah. Oh.
So, do you like her because she owns her evil? Like she actually
Yes.
admits to it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoever
Not
that
morally
lady.
There's no,
ambiguous.
she's
yeah.
like not like in the new Sleeping Beauty, the
Yeah,
live action
yeah.
one where she's like got this like twins.
no,
She's just
no,
misunderstood. No, there's nothing misunderstood about this character. She's the ultimate evil. Represented by the most basic story we all know: the knight storms the castle, defeats the dragon, saves the damsel in distress. She represents that character perfectly, and she brings that character to she has no identity crisis. She's evil. She's wicked. She must be destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they
she's-
do. That
it's-
evil dying, good endure. It came down
great.
to good versus evil.
It's great, and she's very entertaining to watch.
Yes, and
Everything.
and not to mention very scary.
Yeah. When she meets her, when Aurora meets her upstairs in the spindle right there. Oh,
Yes.
that was
That was scary.
I know.
Okay, and my honorable mention from that one was Sir Guy of Gisborne, from the Robin Hood back in the 30s, Errol Flynn Robin Hood.
MGM Robin
Oh,
Hood.
yeah.
right?
Yes, MGM Robin Hood, yes. I have to say him in that category, again, the stereotypical villain, just lives to destroy the bad guy. I mean, the good guy, the best antagonists live to destroy the protagonist. So number 2.
And just to mention about that, you could tell too at the last fight, he had enough of Robin Hood.
Right.
He had
Yes.
enough of Robin Hood.
Yes.
And he was going to kill Robin Hood that night.
Or
and it
Robin
made
Hood was going to kill him.
One of them was going to die, and
Yes.
that made the scene so much better.
Yes, it did. Number 2, going with Edward Longshanks, played by Patrick
Ooh.
McGowan in Braveheart. The thing that I loved about him, he was such a dynamic villain. Some of the best villains are dynamic. You're not necessarily afraid of them. But you just love to watch him. I just love to watch him, begging your pardon, sire, won't we hit our own troops?
He's got some good.
Well, yes. But hit theirs as well. We have reserves. And then he goes, attack. It's hilarious. That's such a good villain. Yes.
He was like-
The problem with Scotland.
he looks at his right hand man like, "Are you a
Yeah.
complete moron?"
Yeah.
Of course we're gonna shoot into our own troops, you idiot.
Yes. Yeah. The problem with Scotland is that it's full of Scots. This villain, he's such a dynamic villain, that you can't decide whether you hate him or you love him. I mean, at the end, obviously you hate him. He's such a good bad guy. So well acted. And the fact that I've never seen Patrick McGowan before and haven't seen him since just says, like, where did this fresh of breath air come from? This guy is a genius. He played such
Fresh.
a dynamic villain that was, what advice would you give me on the present situation?
I know.
We could go forever on
I
that
have a
scene.
comment about that.
Yeah.
Fresh of breath air. I like it.
Yes.
Oh my
So
Fresh of breath air. I don't know if
so
anybody
just
caught that.
an absolute pleasure, enjoy to watch. And my honorable mention on this one, I know there's a lot of people out there who'd say the next villain I'm about to say is better than Patrick McGowan, but to me, I think Patrick was better. The honorable mention would be Colonel Hans Landa, for Christoph Waltz from Inglourious Bastard.
I've
he
actually
did a
never
good job.
seen Inglorious.
Okay.
And I when I was composing this list, Athena said to me, she was like, "Oh, Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
Have you
Christoph
seen that?"
Waltz.
And I
He
like,
was
"I haven't
pretty
seen it."
nasty in that
So,
movie.
Well, he was another very dynamic villain in that movie. Just an incredible bad guy. Kind of put him on the scene for Hollywood, okay, this guy is real. He's for real. After that, he was in all these other movies, Tarzan notwithstanding. So, but that's the first one I saw him in.
Well, he does a good job. and-
he actually wasn't too bad as a bad guy in that one either.
Okay, well, I don't think he can play a bad role at all. Honestly,
Yeah.
I agree.
he's such a dynamic actor. And number 1, okay, the honorable mention here.
Here we go.
Honorable mention here is
You're doing honorable mention first for
yes,
number one?
yeah,
Yeah,
for
makes
number 1.
sense.
I'm gonna go with Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix
Okay.
from Gladiator.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Good.
I
didn't even think of.
Good,
Okay,
good.
yeah, that's a good one.
The best villains. I mean, it comes down to a question for me what makes the best a villain the best? Do I hate him? Do I love him? Or am I scared of him? And I think I have to go with the first one. I hate him. That makes the best villain. I want to go in there and I want to actually physically do something about this. The best villains stir you to action. When I'm scared of a villain, I'm not really stirred to action. When I love a villain, I'm not really stirred to action. But when I see somebody I hate, I actually want to go into the movie and strangle them to death. Mm-hmm. And so my number one pick, greatest, objectively speaking here, and I'm willing to defend this, and I understand
you probably
people
will have to.
yes, I will. I'm going to go with number one, Colonel William Tavington, played by Jason Isaacs from The Patriot.
Oh yeah,
greatest villain all time to hit the silver screen.
Wow, I'm surprised you picked that one. I mean, okay, go ahead.
Not only does he represent a personal enemy of family, but he's also a corporate enemy of freedom. So it relates to me on an American level and on a Christian level. So. Yes, this guy represents more than just a personal thing. He's not only against me and my family, he's also against my freedom. And I've talked to people before, and one person said to me, she said, I've never had my blood boil over a fictional character before like I had with him. You just want to go. You actually want to go into the film and strangle him. You hate him so much that it's hard to watch again when he kills his son and when he kills his other son.
Dude.
And then he makes fun of him. Did he die? That boy, that stupid boy.
He was ruthless.
Yeah,
he
was
killed
ruthless.
2 of Benjamin Martin's sons
Right.
and his daughter-in-law right after the wedding,
Right.
and all of his friends.
Right. I'm not willing to say that he's the most stereotypical villain because some people might say, well, the most stereotypical is the greatest because then he influenced everybody else. I'm willing to say that this person, I think, is the most hateable person to ever enter in on the silver screen, and that's why he's the greatest villain. Jason Isaacs, of course, an amazing actor.
Wow.
Always playing, usually playing a bad guy, and he plays it so well, as demonstrated in the Harry Potter films. But there you go. There's my top 5, Dove.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah, that was it was really good. It's funny. I thought about Tavington. He was on my list of 19. I broke this down from 19 down to 5.
All right.
And he's more of an honorable mention. I'll only do one honorable mention. I'm not going to do one for each one.
Okay.
But my list, I had to break down because there's a difference between you could argue, okay, some villains that hit the silver screen. And there are kind of iconic villains out there that are kind of the greatest out there in the world of movies.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even people that you've never watched before from movies of old that, and so I was like, okay, I can't break it down from that,
right.
people that you have to take
and
into
you're talking
account
about the originals like Bela Lugosi, Dracula, Frankenstein,
that
these
kind of
people
stuff.
who played villains
And you have
way
to
back in
think
the
about,
day.
well, if you go down that road, you have to think about worldwide popularity. How popular is this villain in the
Right.
world out there? So,
Right.
so when I had to go through this, I had to go, okay, I had to really separate it into really Dave Saint's, what I like about villains and what are my,
Yes.
kind of top 5 villains that I think hit. But I think all of them still could make a case for the greatest ever at the same time. So,
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So I really enjoy, I'll tell you this, I really like ruthless, no good in you type of villains. I really like them. And I really like villains that are funny and ruthless. Still no good in you, but you're amusing to me. You
Right.
you kind of make fun of the main character sometimes, wisecracks and one-liners, and they're funny. And so the list reflects that. And I love when there's some type of a switch or a click, and the villain goes ape crazy and starts the bloodshed happens, and there's no
Right.
jokey anymore.
Yeah. He's
I'm
changed.
gonna do something, and so this list reflects that as well.
Okay.
So number 5 on my list of greatest villains that hit the silver screen, Agent Smith.
I was
going to
say the fact that Agent
You
Smith
go
was
with me.
not, it wasn't even in your honorable mentions. How
Oh
did that
man,
happen?
look at Joey.
I'm willing to defend that, but go ahead.
Okay.
You didn't have an
And-
honorable mention for 4. It couldn't have been Agent Smith.
He's not like Biff.
You
you
were,
okay,
you were
listen,
comparing.
I
Okay.
was.
All right.
I mean, each number had the kind of their own category of why it
Yeah.
chose.
Gotcha.
No, listen,
Yeah.
we can argue
Okay.
about my list all we want, but let me finish here.
Agent
So,
Smith. Sorry.
okay,
Agent-
so
sorry,
Agent
Agent
Smith,
Smith
and
is
I wrote
great.
down why, right, and so he was amusing and very ruthless. And he would make fun of Neo sometimes, which I enjoyed. He's like, always using the right muscles except the ones
most important. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and he's iconic because we still say statements from him. We say Mr. Anderson. He has
Yeah.
a great name, Agent
Yes.
Smith. That's
Yes.
all.
Yes.
You know, we don't. And he's just nasty. And
That's
what?
and can I say real quick, Dove? That's why I said Agents of the Silver Screen because agents from the Matrix. That's why. I
Is that what you
chose
said?
name.
That? Oh, very nice. Okay,
Nice.
and
Good
and
reference.
I think there was especially a scene, and this is why, just not why he's good, but why the Matrix is good. You know, there was a scene where you realize that this is for real and this guy's legit, and it's when he beat up Morpheus in the bathroom.
Yes.
That scene
Yeah.
took the viewer away from this karate high flying thing Morpheus and Neo just fought. We're sitting there going, wow, that was awesome, but it's still very fantasy land. When he beats up Morpheus in there and it was ugly and it was nasty, it brought us all into the real world of this is who this dude is.
Yeah.
And you had that in your brain when Neo fights him at the end.
Mm.
You know what he did to Morpheus, and it just made it that much better, I
Right.
felt. So, yeah, that. And, yeah, that's the thought that you have with Agent Smith. So, number 5, Agent Smith. Number 4, King Edward the Longshanks.
Okay.
He was definitely on my list.
Yes.
And it's a love-hate with him. You know, he was very amusing.
Yes.
I don't care who you are. You're out there listening to this podcast. What he did was wrong when he threw the gay guy out the window. That is called murder. But you all admit, and I'll admit, we all liked him a little bit better when he did that. and when he beat up his son, we all liked him a little bit better. And that scene where he just says, where he goes, he says something about his son where he's like, one look at him will encourage a
Yes,
villain
yeah.
to take over the entire country.
Yeah,
You know? It's just, the guy was great, and he was incredibly ruthless. All he wanted to do was kill William Wallace at the end of his life. No mercy in him. But he was one of those guys that I enjoyed because he was funny
Yes.
and ruthless
Yes.
at the same time. And you get a lot of good quotes from him, I think. And some of his noticeable, really horrible things that you really hate, where you hate him.
Yeah.
Prima nocta.
Yeah.
Let's
right,
talk
right.
about prima nocta. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that is when you go, I hate this guy.
Yes.
Okay, and then he
Yes.
throws the gay out the window. Then you go, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's number 4 on my list. Number 3, Captain Hook from the movie Hook. Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman.
By far, Dustin Hoffman's greatest performance ever.
Yes.
There's no question.
Yes.
And he was scary because you remember the first scene when I was a
Yes.
kid watching that
Yes.
first scene with the
Yes.
with the hook going through the
Yes.
wall up the
Yes.
stairs,
Yes.
taking the kids. Scary.
And then they come in, the housemaid's like, and the children were screaming. And it's like,
just
oh my,
real scary.
oh my
Captain Hook
gosh.
came and say, and then
Let's
he
turn
takes-
on some lights around
Yeah,
here.
and then he takes Jack, right? Brainwashes Jack,
Yeah.
Right.
all because I hate Peter Pan. I'm like,
Yeah.
finally, thank you.
Yeah.
This would not even work in a modern movie today. The
Right.
word hate? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
He hated Peter Pan so bad, but he was also very funny
Mm-hmm.
throughout the entire movie until Rufio,
Rufio.
where Rufio makes fun of him, then he just straight up kills Rufio.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this guy, ruthless, maniacal,
Yes.
murderous, funny villain played by an awesome actor in Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah,
So I
Dustin
love them.
Hoffman's
Captain Hook. Number
Rufio,
2, Commodus, Gladiator,
Yes.
played by Joaquin Phoenix. There's no villain I hated more than Joaquin Phoenix. And I just was wishing, as Luke said during this whole movie, I'm going, would someone just please kill this guy
Yes.
already? He
Yes.
murders his dad.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. He's just horrible. He murders his dad, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Murders, what's his name? Russell Crowe's family.
Right.
But when you really hate him, when you really start really badly, is when he talked about their deaths to him.
Oh yeah.
Remember when he's talking about,
Yes.
they tell me that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Right.
just goes off. You just want him to die at that point.
Yes.
And then another point you want him to die is when he's being a pervert to his sister
Yeah.
and saying, you're going to
yeah.
provide me with an heir.
And then-
you just want him to
And,
die.
and on top of that, suggested being a pervert to her son, to his own nephew.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising given the Romans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I actually had this thought after the movie was over and I left. I hated him so much. And I had this thought in my head. I'm like, if I hate this guy this much, they did a really stinking good job
Yes.
of making a really good villain because
Yes.
I really hate this guy. And that was the thought I had.
Yeah.
So that's number 2.
Okay.
Because I hated him. So he was not funny,
Right.
but he was just bloodthirsty animal. Anyway, number 1.
Number 1.
Luke can probably guess who this is. No, you can't. Can you really?
Radigan.
Yes, it is Radigan.
Radigan.
From The Great Mouse Detective.
Yes.
Joey's like, are you kidding me? Okay,
Yeah.
here's why. Listen, I don't know. I can't make a case for the greatest villain ever with this guy. But here's the thing. I was never more scared of any villain in my life than when I saw him switch at the end of that.
Yes.
That
What a great scene.
that movie.
Underestimated Disney film. Absolutely.
When do you remember this, Joey? Or
yeah,
no?
I'm trying to recollect. So
Okay.
I've seen it. I just
When I was a
Like I
kid,
said,
Trying to
underrated.
recollect.
Like I said, underrated.
when
Well,
I was
maybe.
when I was
I
a
feel
kid,
like I
like
remember watching it as a kid, and maybe actually I might need to go back and watch it now because now there's a part of me that wonders if that scene is scary enough that that's why I
Oh,
didn't watch it anymore.
Professor Radigan. Yeah, it's actually Professor.
There's a lot of messed up scenes in that movie.
But he's the whole time he's jokey and he's funny and he has a lot of good quotes and stuff like that where he's just funny, all this stuff until Basil gets him at the end and he just clicks and goes crazy and it was absolutely scary. It's the most scared I've ever been of any villain that I've ever seen since. And here's a big reason why I have him at my number one. That scene still bothers me.
Oh.
Even today when I watch him like go and look and that Disney did such a great job making him look like a rat.
Yes.
He's running up through the clock like a rat.
Yes.
The and then you see the scene where you show his hand and all these claws come out and he just starts ripping Basil to shreds. It's violent, just killing him.
Yeah.
And it's a Disney cartoon for kids.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this and Basil can't do anything. He's helpless and he's killing him.
Right.
And Basil is dying, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I am scared. Like this guy scares me.
Right.
And to this day, when I watch it, it's still a bothering scene. So for me, maybe not out there in a silver screen, but for me in my life,
Yes.
Professor Radigan, number one villain. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Awesome.
And it's very fitting that he was played by Vincent Price, who had a very long history with horror films.
Yeah.
All right, Mr.
All
Baney.
right. Okay, so the way I'm going to do it is give you my top 5, and then I'll do some honorable mentions at the end. That's
Okay.
just how I'm gonna
Can I have
do it.
one honorable mention before
Oh,
you go?
yeah,
One
of
honorable
course.
mention.
Yeah, you had one
I
honorable
can't believe
mention.
you haven't mentioned this, Luke. Because this guy, I had a real hard time getting this guy off my top 5, and it took me a long time, a good 15 minutes of thinking. Sid, Toy Story.
Oh.
Thank
yeah.
you. Honorable mention, and I had a really tough time with that one.
Yeah.
it's
He
great.
was a great bad guy.
Great bad guy.
This is ludicrous. Hey, Bozo, you got any brains
the
in there?
worst part too, when you're like, this is a bad kid, is when his sister starts to tell on him.
Yes.
He goes, she's lying.
Yes.
Whatever she says, it's not true.
We all know a Sid, man. We all grew up with that kid.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we did. Well, he also always I guess to me anyway, he always represented someone you knew,
Yes.
in your life.
Yes, we all know a Sid.
I always knew a kid.
He's
like that.
relatable
Yes.
to some
Like,
kids.
yeah,
Right.
every grade in elementary school and middle school, I was like, oh yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
the way mine works, just briefly, is that a lot of times, most of these villains for me are ones that are believable in terms of reflecting real life. Like
Nice.
most of my villains are like, okay, I could see this being a person in
So
real life.
like
Okay.
Luke's then,
Yeah.
right?
Being a person in real life, and also I think there's probably some room for just the way some of these characters, a lot of mine, they tend to be characters who you almost want to believe, if that makes sense. Like, so I think a lot of your villains are ones that are like, I'm evil, and they're kind of willing to admit it, whereas a lot of mine are sort of not. And so therefore it's kind of one of those things where you are stuck sort of wondering about them, I guess, if that makes sense. So, okay. So to start then, number 5 for me is Frank Costello, played by Jack Nicholson in The Departed.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So this one is probably a weird one because a lot of people tend to go for The Shining with Jack Nicholson
Yes.
and being a villain.
I thought you were going to say that in a second, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
No, so I'm going with this one. The reason I actually go with him, I go with him for a couple of reasons. He's just like a dirtbag.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, so the thing about his character in The Shining is he's really scary in The Shining. He does a great job.
Right.
But the thing about it is effectively the Overlook takes over him, and that's why he's so terrible.
Right.
Whereas he's just an awful human being in The Departed.
Yes.
And that's what makes him so believable to me.
Yes.
Is he's just terrible. Like you want this like sick person to just like, you want him to be gone. You want him to be out of this movie. And the other reason I give it to him is because I don't know if you guys know the story, but the scene where he's like trying to figure out the sort of mole or the rat, right?
Yes.
In his group, and he's at the table, I think he's having lunch or something with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and he pulls the gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't actually planned in the movie. So that reaction that Leonardo DiCaprio gives is raw.
Oh.
Jack
Wow.
Nicholson brought a real gun to the set
Wow.
and pulls it on him in that scene.
Wow,
this is what
man.
I've read anyway.
Okay.
And pulls it on him in that scene, and it wasn't scripted. So-
Wow. Very nice.
Okay, so that's my number 5. Number 4, because I felt that this actor needed mentioning because he just does such a good job in everything. Bill the Butcher Cutting. This is
Ooh, yeah.
from
Gangs of New York. Yeah.
Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
He was
Yes.
good.
So
man.
part of the reason I give him, part of the reason he's on this list for me is because I actually saw that movie and didn't know until years later that was Daniel Day-Lewis.
So that's great acting by him.
So he is just
Absolutely.
incredible acting. Like
Yes.
What?
Someone was like,
Beanie, seriously?
seriously.
Come on, dude.
Someone was like,
How old are you when you saw that? Like 3?
no. I was probably like 13 or 14 when I saw that movie.
Okay, all right.
13 or 14 when I saw the movie, and I knew
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Like I love Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I
Yes.
knew Daniel
Yeah.
Day-Lewis. I'd watched movies of his.
Wow.
I watched that whole movie hating this character, but this whole idea of it being that time period and him being this sort of character, it's totally
Yep.
believable to me.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
actually 2 Scorsese movies in a row as well.
Okay.
So maybe Scorsese just does a good job of that as an actor. But I
Yes.
watched that movie hating him the entire time.
He was
Yes.
really brutal.
Yeah, and then
A
like
very
years
realistic bully of a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was totally believable that he would be.
especially
that
with
he's
Cameron,
not around
especially with
nowadays.
his kid with Cameron Diaz, and then she showed like the scar, like
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
yeah, he's disgusting.
So he's disgusting, but again, to me, he represents a person that I could totally believe would exist.
Yes.
Right.
yes.
Kind of like Woody Harrelson's guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
And so he does a great job of that. But yeah, I saw that like someone years later was like, oh yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is so great in Gangs of New York, and I was like, who is he playing Gangs?
Oh
of New
my
York? And they were like, he's the butcher.
Beatty, that's one.
I was like,
Beatty,
what?
listen, Beatty, that's one where you sit there and you go, maybe I should keep my mouth shut
Yeah, I
because
know.
I might lose credibility.
Well, okay. To be fair, we did have the internet at this point, so I didn't actually say in conversation who did he play.
Oh,
I went
okay.
and clicked IMDb, and I was
Okay.
like,
You were saved.
he was the butcher.
Hawkeye was the butcher.
Yeah.
Say it ain't so.
So that one.
Number
one,
4.
So that one's my number 4. Number 3, Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal
Oh,
Lecter. Oh,
okay.
can we talk?
Yeah.
Let's
Hannibal
talk.
That's
Lecter.
true.
Let's talk.
So Hannibal Lecter, I love because of the way he
Yes.
is so intelligent, but he's so suave. Like he just
Yes.
he's got all this classical training. He's
Yes.
just he's this person who epitomizes intelligence,
Yes.
intellect. But I love the representation in Hannibal Lecter of because we live in a society that prioritizes intellectualism,
Yes.
right, and education,
Yeah,
which I
right.
don't necessarily think is a bad thing,
Right.
But when you do that, and that alone, right, it and you see the way it corrupts someone, right?
Yes.
This super intelligent character, right? It is sort of versed in all things that are highly cultural.
Yes.
And yet he's eating people.
Yes.
And so I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And then I also
And you
I always-
believe like you could see somebody being like that
Exactly.
in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
well, I
think that's
think it's
what they are like that.
Right, but I think
Yeah.
it's just a great representation of what intellectualism does without the fear of the Lord. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
That's
So
a great point.
I think it's a perfect.
Yeah.
And I also can't I can't pass up this character because the scene where he like bites his nose and then wears his face
Yes.
to get away.
Oh.
Just that
Oh.
scene in and of itself.
I
think
and
deserves some
I
of,
think the best scene in that
place.
movie is, and I think I told you this before, but I think the best scene in that movie is when we're introduced to him and you're walking. You've never seen the movie before, and they're walking through the insane asylum, and you see all these crazy people, and they're acting like how you think insane people
Exactly. Yep.
would and so you're like, okay, who's this Hannibal guy? You know, he's gonna be jumping around like a monkey, like the rest of these guys on their beds and stuff like that. You know, and then you walk up to his cell. And he's just standing there all nice and straight, and he's got a smile on his face. And it's not like this, like, hey, I'm crazy smile. It's like, I'm perfectly sane individual smile. And, like, I'm so happy that you're here. And it was so off-putting. And you knew right away, okay, we're dealing with a different type of villain here. This is not like the rest of the, like, Tourette's syndrome people like you would expect. Like, this guy is in a category all of his own, and it was instantly terrifying just looking at him.
That's true, and you could tell too by Clarice could tell.
Yes,
when
that's
she
right.
met him too. She
Yeah.
was like, okay, this guy's different.
Yes.
Well, I think that's something that's so interesting about him too is that there's there's a lot of villains. I don't know. There's a lot of times where good movie villains make you do this, or maybe good writing makes you do this. But something's happening on screen, and you're like, how do you not see this happening? Like, how do you not understand that this villain is doing that?
Right.
But Hannibal Lecter, when I watch Silence of the Lambs, I'm like, I would be totally fooled by this guy.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
in a natural setting, I'm like, oh, I'd like this guy.
The character was so great that I was going, man, I wish I could talk to him. I bet you I could fool him and all that kind of stuff. But then you think about it, you're like, no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
But
no way.
he represents like what we idealize as, in many ways as a society, which is always really interesting too, because then he's eating people. So so I just
Little
he
caveat there, he
deserves
also eats
deserves
people.
a mention, and I was really conflicted over him on where to put him on this list.
Okay.
Because he fights with number 2, which is going to be the Joker.
Okay.
So
Okay. Which one?
Joker's my number 2. Oh, Heath Ledger Joker.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
No
all right,
question.
all right.
No question
so,
about
you
it.
know,
So Heath
I had him on the list too, and I was that was a tough one for me.
Heath Ledger Joker.
Amusing, my guy. Amusing.
Yes.
Ruthless.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead.
But Heath Ledger Joker specifically was what I was kind of leading up to with what I said at the beginning of this too, about that character who is absolutely abhorrent, but in the same sense, like when he's supposed to be this opposite of Batman. He's supposed to be like, Batman stands for justice and righteousness,
Yes.
and then we see the Joker, and we're supposed to be like, eh. But that movie, you're kind of like, and maybe Chris Nolan does this, and maybe Batman's just not as interesting, because he definitely, I think Christian Bale gets outplayed by Heath Ledger in that movie.
For sure.
So,
No question.
Can we
so,
talk?
So so maybe that's it too, but there's so much about the Joker's ideology about society that you almost like kind of believe. That you're kind of with him at the end of the movie, not like in all the really insane ways necessarily, but there's a lot of like, when I watched that movie, there was a lot of me that was like, his analysis about society is really kind of on point, even
Yes.
though obviously he goes about it in a way I would never. So yeah.
Yes. Right.
I don't know. He's very convincing, I guess.
The greatest description of the Joker, of his character, was given by Michael Caine. You know, some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah.
Heath Ledger embodied that. You know, this inexplicable desire for chaos, because it's an antithetical to Batman, who has an inexplicable desire to see justice done, and to see order.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the bad guy with an inexplicable desire to see chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the two are completely opposed.
Mhm.
And Heath Ledger just did a great job of relaying that I have no purpose here except to destroy any semblance of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And just a quick point too about that one. Like when I was thinking about Heath Ledger's Joker, I thought about, man, you could have and I thought about doing this, but I couldn't. But you could have a separate category of what do good villains do.
Yeah.
And I think one good thing good villains do, and you can have a category of movie villains that act like this, is the audience almost goes to see them before they go see the main hero.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Certainly true of that movie.
Yes,
People went
true.
to see it because they wanted to see the Joker.
Well, I think
again.
they went to see it because he like Batman. Batman Begins is really good, so I
Yeah.
went to see it for Batman, and you came out kind of excited about the Joker. So
Yeah.
Plus, he saw there's death throughout the. You know what I mean? It's like that added all kinds of fuel.
That's
I
true.
felt. But
That's
I mean,
true.
that's one where I went. I'm like, I'm excited to see a new Joker because we haven't seen a good one since Jack Nicholson. Really
Yeah.
back then, you know.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson, it wasn't even good.
It was just different.
terrible.
I
It was
think
just different.
I actually think Jack Nicholson does a good job, but
Yeah.
obviously I think Heath Ledger is superior. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's the anarchist Joker.
That's true.
And I
Yes.
think I do think that he's far superior to anything else we've seen on. this
Yeah,
I
first
think a
weekend,
guy
so-
died because of it. For goodness sakes.
Yeah, that's true
Yes.
too. So I mean, maybe that's why he's
And,
on this list.
You know, I've seen that meme on the internet too, going around of the different types of Jokers. You know, and Heath Ledger was the anarchist, but you know what? At the end of the day, that's the one that's most like the Joker. The character of the Joker is desire to see chaos, to remove any semblance of order from the world.
And we're going to go back to this really quick because it ties into my point for number one.
Okay.
So number one, I have Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men.
He was an honorable mention for me. I took him off.
Yeah. So I have Anton there. I have Anton there because I see that movie in a way that I think you can also maybe see The Dark Knight in as well. But the reason I love that character so much and just love that the book and the movie is that he is like a symbolic representation of a lot of people call him the Grim Reaper,
Right.
but I call it like to me he's a symbolic representation of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And so like and you have Tommy Lee Jones's character is supposed to kind of like symbolize God in this scenario, right? And then what's the actor who plays
Josh Brolin.
Josh
Josh
Brolin,
thank you.
Llewellyn Moss.
Yeah, and Josh Brolin is sort of like representative of humanity. Right?
Yes.
And sort of being caught, right? And sort of in between there. But I think Anton Chigurh gets it for me because every scene he enters, you feel helpless about. There's like no like fighting back. There's like nothing in that movie where you're like, okay, the forces of good are gonna kick this guy's butt. He shows up and he just and you're done. Like that was it. And so and I don't know. So to me, that feeling of helplessness, there's not many villains that really characterize that for me. Like there's you always have hope.
Yes.
And in that movie, you just don't
Right.
Like he shows up with like Woody Harrelson's
Yes.
character, right?
Yeah.
Like Woody Harrelson's supposed to be this like crazy agent who like he assassinates people and he's supposed to be really good at his job, and he just gets like destroyed.
Yes.
Like there's no they fight, or there's no like shootout or anything like that.
There's no struggle.
He just like walks
No
into his
struggle.
room and you're just like, oh, he's done. And I don't know. So there's that helplessness, but then to tie that back to the Joker as well. I see them both as sort of being representative of like the devil, I guess, in that sense.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Wow.
Because
makes a lot of sense.
Specifically, I tie that back to the Joker as well because of Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. Because Harvey Dent is sort of representative of man in that to me, right? And so Harvey Dent sort of like is sort of pushed by the devil, the Joker, and then and that's when he like becomes really sort of like goes crazy, right, and becomes Two-Face. Does that make sense? So in both of those, I think that it's really kind of interesting to see the play out between three characters, one that sort of represents like ultimate good, and one that sort of represents ultimate evil, and then like this character that's in between. And sort of is pressure, and the pressure is sort of put on them by evil, and the way they sort of crumble to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good list, man.
Yeah. Who were your honorable mentions?
Okay, so some honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is John Fitzgerald from The Revenant. So he and
What a great character.
Yeah, I remember
Phenomenal.
I remember Luke coming back from the theater going, "Dude, Leo was great, but Tom Hardy in that."
Yeah.
was
Tom
awesome."
Hardy
I
stole
remember
the show.
Luke came back and was like, he was
I
really.
really wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to win an Oscar that year, so I was happy he finally
Yeah,
got his Oscar
yeah.
after all these chances. But Tom Hardy deserved the nomination and the Oscar.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Of all, I mean, I'm disappointed in that film because of all the great performances by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
This is the one he gets the Oscar for, and he just looked helpless and confused for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he did a bad job. I'm not saying it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, I mean, it wasn't exactly the most dynamic character I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He is definitely, his performance in The Departed was a lot better.
Yeah.
There's other movies. Blood Diamond, can we talk?
Yeah.
Was a lot better. He should have won the Oscar for those.
Yeah.
And this is the one he wins for. I was disappointed that the Oscar, first off, DiCaprio should have gotten like 3 or 4 Oscars before he got this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And secondly, the Oscar, as you said, should have gone to Tom Hardy.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think Tom Hardy deserved that Oscar, and I just again, Tom Hardy's character for Fitzgerald is so believable in that. Again, I'm like, this would totally be a person, and just the way he talks, he's constantly like the way he's talking about the way life has treated him, and I actually watched that movie and watched him. And cringed because I actually had a coworker who reminded me a lot like him. Like if my coworker was put in this situation, would be like exactly the same way. And so for me, this coworker was not a good person. So so I was kind of, I don't know, watching that movie was so believable to me what he did, and the way he portrayed that character. I was like, okay, this makes sense for a character. So that's a one honorable mention. The other one I was going to go to is HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh my gosh.
So HAL
Wow.
really also competed for my list because I think that HAL is the best representation of technology gone wrong. We see that a lot through cinema, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen like the Terminator, right?
Yes.
And there's
iRobot.
Yeah. So iRobot and that movie are a really good comparison because iRobot does sort of the same thing. The sort of big computer mega base at the end. She comes to the logical conclusion.
Yes.
Okay, this is what humanity is, so this is how we have to act.
Right. But you're saying that Hal did it first.
Well, Hal not only did it first, he does it better. To me, he's far scarier. Probably because they fight and then they win. Like Will Smith and the robot fight and win.
Oh yes.
Right.
And Dave is so helpless.
Uh-huh.
Hal, open the pod bay doors. I'm sorry, Dave. Like he just
Right.
It's
Right.
like that. Yeah.
No
I
shot.
can't do that. And
Yes.
so he's totally like, there's no feeling with Hal. Like, it's just like, it's pure logic, which to me is like what we would get if we ever had like technology take over. That would be he's the best.
Probably listening right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
man.
That's true. The cloud is targeting the three of us. I've put you in.
It's funny you said
crosshairs. I'm
cloud.
sorry.
Tavington was an honorable mention for me.
Yeah.
If I were to honorable mention somebody, I actually
Yes.
circled. I circled. One was Tavington. One was Sid, and because I thought Tavington was really good. What was the other one? Oh, Gaston.
Gaston.
I put
Gaston,
Gaston because I really
Gaston.
like funny and ruthless. He stabbed
Yes.
us, shot the beast. I even put Madam Mim on here. I don't know how I got that.
Madam Mim.
Madam Mim.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch.
I think I totally looked at this differently than you guys because I didn't think Disney at all. But I also wasn't sure if
Disney's got some
I
great ones.
didn't. I also
Well, I
wasn't
mean,
sure. I wasn't sure if animated movies were allowed or not. So I didn't.
Well,
think
see,
about that.
I think you're looking at the actually the greatest representation of villains here, because I said you either, when it comes to villains, what makes a great villain is either you love them, like what you did, you saying I love these characters, and those were all on your list. Duvv came down to him what scared him the most, and me, I came down to who I hated the most.
Yeah.
So we actually had the
Yeah.
trifecta
Well,
of.
yeah, that's
it's
true.
actually
I mean,
pretty convenient. Actually,
And a lot of mine too. It's just, like I
think
said,
there's
I
a
love
sermon in
the-
there.
I love funny, and then click.
right.
Something happens,
Yeah.
and now they're just bloodthirsty. I don't
Right.
know. I just think it makes a great villain.
Right. It came down to me who I hated, came down to you who you're afraid of, came down to you who you loved. So, okay. You had any more honorable
No,
mentions?
those were my honorable mentions. I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
Now I'll start the exit music.
All right. Cool.
Okay. We're exiting.
Well, that wraps up our podcast for today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's the whole kit and caboodle, folks.
The cat poop smell went away throughout the evening. I felt.
I think you just got used to it, right?
Maybe
I think
okay,
all
so it still
the
smells.
hot air in my basement
You know what? And
kind
maybe
of got
that's
rid of
because
it.
maybe that's because we haven't changed the cat litter in about a month. Maybe that'll do it.
Yeah, that will do it.
No wonder she wants to go outside all the time.
I would just probably keep her outside, never let her back in. Anyway, next month, folks, this is what we're going to be looking at for the list. 3 times that you wish you could change movie history, and I'm not talking about I would stop this director from making this movie. I'm talking about you could go into the screen and stop whatever injustice was about to happen 3 times. Doesn't have to be in order, like this time more than that time. Just give me 3 times where you wish you could go into the silver screen and stop the injustice that was about to happen.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that next month. Thanks for listening. This has been Streetwise Theology, broadcasting with the agents of the silver screen. Be strong and courageous. We'll see you later.